since it's still Disability Awareness Month, I thought I would make another video and this time kind of get into what I look for as a woman living with a disability as far as government goes. For me personally, I am for small government. I think we should shrink it. I think it's in too much of everybody's business, and I just overall would like smaller government. And also, the government has so many things that it has to do that I kind of feel like it's never going to get to the specific issues of each community anyway. And without the fundamentals, like ones that I'm going to be getting into when I get to my list, we don't have a country. And then we really can't get to the issues facing specific communities. So what do I want? National security, a good economy, freedom, security in knowing that my voice is heard, whether that's at the ballot box or otherwise, a fact-based press on both sides. I don't care which way you sway. I don't care which way you vote. That's not my business. Number 2, infrastructure. Both sides tout infrastructure on the campaign trail every single election, and it never gets done. We need better buses. We need better trains. We need more buses, more trains. And I would like more walkability as well. Sidewalks across America are horrendous. And I know that is generally, before anybody comes down my throat about this, I know generally that is left up to the homeowner. But there has got to be something that people could do to encourage whoever actually comes and fixes those things to create sidewalks where they don't exist and then fix ones with holes in them. Because I can't tell you how many times I've almost toppled over. This one has driven me nuts for years. Amend the amendment or the clause that allows for buildings, which they call pre-existing buildings, prior to 1990 to not be up to code for accessibility now. And we're in 2022, so things have changed, things have improved, things generally do become more accessible, but there are some of those buildings that are not. And it's just funny to me that New York City is claimed to be one of the most accessible places, but if you go into certain big parts of New York City, not at all. Very, very old buildings. And I'm also not one for tearing down a building to make it accessible and rebuilding it. There are ways that you can change buildings, and maybe people don't know that. So maybe you need people in wheelchairs to do a wheel through and tell you what needs to be fixed, what's not done right. Just an idea that I've had for a long time. And if you actually make more buildings wheelchair accessible, that would cut down on job discrimination of not hiring somebody because they can't get into the building or they can't reach things or they can't, this, that, and the other. And more doctors' offices would be accessible as well. Number 4, close the gap on what you can make on Social Security or disability. I don't mind the government taking you off of your government check once you make at a job what they are giving you. Totally fair. But they can't pull a number from thin air and say, okay, this is the cap you can make, or we'll take you off. Because generally speaking, it's much lower than what we make, even though that's still low because $200 billion is supposed to be allocated to people with disabilities, and don't get me started on that because we don't see it. But annually, that's annually, by the way. But it never made sense to me that you can only work a certain amount that's way below your check that they're giving you before they take you off at work. So it makes the unemployment for people with disabilities more of a choice out of fear instead of we can't do it. Because too many people are afraid to work because they're afraid to have that happen. I actually had it happen, and that's the only reason I knew. And I know there are programs, I know a lot of people with disabilities are going to come at me for this. There are programs that you can join where you can make however much you want for a certain amount of time, like a trial period, and they won't take it off of your government check. But there shouldn't be a program for that. You shouldn't have to research that and find it out sometimes after the fact. It should just be the general rule. Number 5. This is a general rule that I would like for all of government, but specifically because I am a disabled woman, this affects me directly. I want some transparency. I want to know where that $200 billion annually is going to. There's billions missing from HUD. Like I said, we're like, 20% of the world's poorest people? And there's not a lot allocated to making it more accessible for us, so where is it going? I have my suspicions, I know that much. So, yeah, there's that. So yeah, that's why I would like smaller government and more choices and more assistance as far as us being independent instead of dependent on the government. Because as long as we're dependent on them, they can do whatever they want and they don't care. They don't actually care about anybody, especially us. And yeah, that's why I don't pay too much attention to the niceness of politicians. Because most of the time it's fake. Like, they could be a nice person when you meet them. Fine. But the pandering to a community, I'm not about that. Right, so I just wanted to share my opinion as an American, because that I always say, the last thing that I will define myself as is a disabled, handicapped person living with a disability, whatever. I am a spiritual being living a human experience like everybody else, and I also happen to be an American. And so many of the issues, well, all of the issues actually, that everybody votes on affect me too. And like I said in one of my examples on my list, we're never going to get to fix these issues with each community if we don't have our fundamentals done first. Which is why I am a big proponent of small government, because if they just concentrated on those issues, everything would start to improve for everybody. And less of the shenanigans would happen, less of the questioning. Like, we shouldn't have to question, especially as disabled or elderly people, where our money is going. That's not fair. At least to me. But yeah, so I don't know how you guys feel. You could feel free to chime in. You can disagree with me. Please be respectful. You could disagree with me though. But I just feel like we don't have a country if we don't get the fundamentals right for us and for everybody, and then we can work on the rest. But we'll never get there as long as the fundamentals aren't right, and maybe that's why elections are still so competitive, because, like I said, one will promise one thing, another will promise another, and there have been good presidents that have made good on their promises. But we need it more consistently, and we need them to step out of the way more often than not. But yeah, so those are my thoughts. Take them or leave them. But let me know what you think. If this is stuff that you even think about, I hope I gave you something to think about if you don't normally think about this stuff, because it is important. No matter what you think about whoever's in office at any time, it is our right, at least in America, to vote and have opinions and preferences and needs that we focus on. All right, so I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please subscribe to this channel and turn your bell notifications on, because I have been trying to put out videos at least once a week. I'm doing a lot this month because it's Disability Awareness Month, so I cannot promise that I will continue. I'm hoping to keep this momentum, but just in case it does dwindle a little bit to maybe once a week, I would like to keep it at that. Make sure you're subscribed, make sure you turn the bell notifications on so you don't miss a video, and I will talk to you guys soon.